Greetings! I am Herbert Erpaderp, and today I'm going to build this Malifaux Mechanised Porkchop. The main reason I bought this model was because I was greatly entertained by the idea of a mechanized porkchop. What the model is actually more of a mechanized entire pig, but that's pretty cool too. As with pretty much every Malifaux kit I've ever seen, the only thing on the back of the box of this one is some digital renderings of the model, and nothing else. That said, we don't really need much else. Inside the box we find this stat card. This is of course the card for Malifaux 2nd edition, and 3rd edition is coming, or may even be out already by the time you see this video, so this card is going to be redundant soon. However, the model itself should still be perfectly usable in the next edition of Malifaux, and I think that's what really matters. There's also this very exciting 50mm base. Quite basey if you ask me. There's also this card, letting us know that the instructions for the model can be found online. No paper instructions are included. I will leave a link to the instructions in the description below. The model itself comes on this one small grey sprue. As with pretty much all Malifaux kits, there aren't any optional or leftover parts, just enough to build the model itself. And while that does make my bits box a bit sad, it's perfectly fine. Also, like every Malifaux kit I've ever seen, the parts on this sprue look very nice and neat. Everything is crisp and sharp where it needs to be, and smooth and rounded where it needs to be. This model has a bunch of nice little details on it, like some bolt or rivet details and some spikes. Everybody likes spikes, right? It looks as though it's going to be a good build, and having already built it, I know that it is, for the most part. Fairly quick too. Enough waffling, let's build. The first step was to join the two halves of the porkchop's body together. This does fit fairly well, though there is, unfortunately, a bit of a gap along the bottom. There's also a gap on the top at the front, at the snout. I applied a bit more glue and pressure to try and fix that up as best I could. There is still a very slight gap there, and you could fill it in if you wish, but I'm probably just going to leave it how it is. The big gap along the bottom should be fine. You won't see that when the model is on the gaming table anyway, but if you wanted to, it wouldn't be too hard to fill. Then, because I assume a robotic pig would be used to bite its enemies, I added the lower jaw, which is really quite helpful for biting. I did have to trim this part down very slightly, but after that it went into place quite easily. There is a bit of a gap near the back of the jaw, but I think that makes it look a bit more mechanical. I then installed this air intake thing. When I streamed this build, I made hilarious and mature jokes about this being a fart module, or something like that. That's why it needs those big vents on the front, to scoop in air to make farts. Being that this isn't a real thing, we're free to imagine the parts to be whatever we want them to be. Oh, and the part does go into place nice and easily. Then it's time for legs. These fit quite nicely, especially the front legs. Though I was initially a little bit confused about which leg should go on which side. That's more because I'm a bit of a dunderhead than a problem with the model itself. I like the way these look, with the round gear looking thing at the top. It looks very mechanical and cool. The rear legs were a little bit more fiddly to get into place, though not super hard. Once you figure out which way they should be facing, it's quite easy to get them into the correct spot. They do need to be held in place until the glue takes hold though, otherwise they won't stay in place. But once they're on, they look good. Look at that weird butt. Not much left to do now. I put the ears on. These were, in my opinion, the most fiddly and annoying part of this build. It was kind of hard to figure out which ear should go on which side, and I'm still not confident I got it right. They also don't fit into the mounting holes very well. And they're pointy, so they're quite hard to apply pressure to. You can see how that might be a bit of a problem. The ears do have a gap here. Either that's intentional or it will need to be filled in later. I couldn't get them to go in any further than that. They also appear to be backwards, but it also seems like that's how they were meant to look. Oh well, I guess it could be worse. The final step is to add these. I guess they might be exhaust pipes. That's what they look like to me anyway. I was pleased that these went on much easier than the ears. I did have to give them a bit of a nudge with my knife, but they go on with no real issue. And that's it. One Mechanised Porkchop for Malifaux completed. I quite like this model. It certainly satisfies that desire for strange models. I mean, other than the ears. I'm not really happy with those. But I do like the model overall. It's pretty interesting. Like I said before, it would have been funnier if it were actually shaped like a pork chop, but a robotic pig is pretty cool too. I think it's going to be an interesting one to paint. There's a lot of edges and plates to do stuff with. There's also a bunch of cool looking details you could do fun things with. That said, I don't have any plans to paint this immediately, but I will probably start on it before any other Malifaux stuff. I have no idea how this actually plays in the game, and whether or not it's a good unit to have in your force, but I've also never been one to buy models specifically because they'll be good in a game. I make my choices based on how cool things look. That's just how I enjoy doing things. As with most Malifaux kits, this one was pretty easy to put together. There were some issues, as seen in the video, but none that were overly challenging. Though I guess you could say the ears were a bit of a challenge. I built this model on stream, and it was a fun time. I enjoyed the build, and it didn't take very long. Obviously the time it takes to build a model on stream while filming and taking notes is going to be longer than just building the model without any of that extra stuff, so you could probably build this really quickly. If you want to see me building models on stream, there's a link to my Twitch channel in the description below. Give me a follow and come hang out when I go live. It'll be good times. Anyway, I think this Mechanised Porkchop is an interesting and fun model. What do you think? Do you play Malifaux? Do you prefer your Porkchops non-mechanized? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful or interesting, be sure to share it with your friends or anybody that might find it useful. And of course, don't forget to subscribe, follow, ring the bell, and all the other things you do on YouTube and social media. Links to all my stuff, including Patreon and my Twitch channel, are in the description below. You can also find the YouTube members join button down there. And as always, I shall return soon. So until then, be excellent to each other, and thank you for watching. Farewell.